Good morning, Emerson. A deadly attack came to a museum in Tunisia, shaking the African country. Lauren Fox has more in the latest at the desk.
A pregnant Food Network star and her husband have disappeared, and a construction worker has been charged with their murders. Emilia Fabiano has the complete story.
All that and much, much more today, Thursday, March 19th.
I'm Maggie Morlath.
And I'm Logan Reaper. We have a great show for you here today. Later on, we have an interview with Andrew Hutcheson, who is the founder of Zandrak Productions. So that should be fun. He's also an Emerson alumni, so that should be exciting coming
That's
up.
right. Zandrak is a production house that sort of marries advertising with marketing. They create commercials, but he's, using the skills that he found here at Emerson and putting them to the test.
Definitely different from the acting and like the journalism, combining two such different things in marketing. So
right,
look forward
creating
to
his
that.
own sort of career.
Definitely.
Yeah, and later Sean will be highlighting the BYU Ole Miss game that's sort of kicking off March Madness.
Starting off March Madness. It was 11 seeds, so it's not your typical 16 seeds. Two very good teams, exciting game, and a fun start to March Madness. Those play-in games always a pretty good time. And then later on, we have a cooking demo with Meredith, and we have buffalo chicken, everything. We got pizza, we got lettuce wraps, we got everything you could want. Look forward to that. I don't know anybody that doesn't like buffalo chicken.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I'm gonna have it for breakfast this morning. Have a bite of that pizza. Never too early for buff chick.
Never.
But first, we have some news out of Tunisia. A shooting at a museum has resulted in at least 20 deaths. Lauren, can you tell us more?
Yes, I can, Maggie. At least 20 people are dead after a shooting at the Bardo Museum in Tunisia Wednesday. The victims include 17 foreign nationals and a security officer. At least 24 others were wounded. Tunisian Prime Minister Habib Essed said the attack was a cowardly terrorist operation against tourists. The gunmen, dressed in military fatigues, shot at tourists as they were getting off their bus to enter the museum. Attackers took some people hostage inside the museum until police arrived on the scene. Two of the attackers were killed in a gunfight with police. Tunisian authorities are currently hunting others involved. An Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared victory in Tuesday's elections after a last-minute policy change. The Prime Minister appealed to right-wing voters by calling off his commitment to negotiating a Palestinian state just days before the election. After almost all the votes were counted on Wednesday, the Prime Minister's Likud party won at least 29 seats in parliament, while his main rival, the Zionist Union Party, won 24. The Zionist Union Party has been leading in opinion polls in the weeks prior to the election. The White House has indicated that Netanyahu's dramatic re-election will cause further setbacks to Middle East peace agreements. And Illinois Representative Aaron Schock resigned Tuesday after reports he used taxpayer money to fund personal luxuries. The Office of Congressional Ethics began an investigation into Schock's spending after a report surfaced that he spent $40,000 to decorate his office, inspired by Downton Abbey. Other extravagant spending reports vary from his travel overseas to business deals. The 33-year-old congressman raised eyebrows in 2011 when he appeared shirtless on the cover of Men's Health. His resignation takes effect March 31st. And a friend of accused Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev testified that he gave Tsarnaev the gun used in the fatal shooting of the MIT police officer. 21-year-old Stephen Silva told the court Tuesday he had given Tsarnaev the gun 2 months before the Boston Marathon bombings. According to Silva, Tsarnaev asked to borrow the gun to use for a robbery. Silva is currently in prison for drug charges and faces up to 40 years. Silva's testimony is one of several new developments that have come out of the Boston Marathon trial. Here are the biggest updates of this week's trial proceedings. A DNA expert testified Wednesday that the blood of MIT police officer was found on the gloves inside of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's car after the murder. The jury also saw the pipe bomb Tsarnaev is accused of throwing at police, as well as the bloody sweatshirt he wore when he was arrested. A Watertown resident recollected the horrifying moment he realized Tsarnaev was hiding underneath the boat in his backyard. Prosecutors also showed images of the message Tsarnaev carved into the wood on the side of the boat, which read, "Stop killing our innocent people and we will stop." Tsarnaev wrote a similar message in pencil on the boat's interior. Jurors saw the bullet-holed boat on Monday morning. That same day, Watertown police appeared in court to describe their shootout that killed brother Tamerlan Tsarnaev, an altercation they called 8 minutes of sheer terror. With these huge developments, the prosecution is expected to wrap their case against Tsarnaev sometime next week. Those are all the updates I have for you today. Back to Logan and Maggie at the desk.
Thank you, Lauren. You know, I almost got knocked over in this wind tunnel we call Boylston the other day.
Yeah, I think the wind picked me up and placed me a little bit down the street, actually.
Definitely. I thought it was supposed to be getting warmer. Michael, is there going to be more of this to come?
Yeah, I was actually having trouble getting to class myself yesterday. So let's take a look at the weather for today, and hopefully that wind will turn down for us. So today, even though the sun is up, the temperature is down. This morning, it's only 19 degrees outside, but the wind is going to make it seem even colder. As it warms up, we'll be hitting temperatures closer to around 33 degrees, and the sun should be shining all day. Tonight, the winds are going to start to wind down, and temperatures are going to return to about 19 degrees. Clouds will be rolling in starting this evening, and I'm sure many of you are wondering whether this means more snow in store for Boston. Well, I'm here to tell you, maybe. Tomorrow, Boston's temperature will rise up to 37 degrees, and we can expect to see the sun early on, but cloudy weather for most of the day. As the evening approaches, however, we have a 70% chance of snowfall. It should be nothing to worry about, though, as I expect only to see a few flurries here and there. But hey, apparently that's enough to cripple transportation around Boston, as we've seen these past few months. Looking ahead to our 5-day forecast, our weekly temperature highs are all above freezing. Today is the coldest day this week with a high of 33 and a low of 20. Tomorrow, things are going to warm up to about 37 degrees, but like I said, we could be in for some snow in the evening. Any snow that sticks on the ground should melt away by Saturday, the warmest day this week, with a high of 44 and a low of 30. We'll be seeing the sun again by Sunday, and the temperature will level out at about 35 degrees, with similar conditions continuing to Monday. Now let's take a look at an interesting analysis of this past winter's weather patterns. Think this winter's been cold? Well, think again. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says that this past winter was 1.42 degrees Fahrenheit above the 20th century average for all land and ocean areas. The previous warmest winter was in 2007, though we've only capped that record by 0.05 degrees. This winter, these high readings have been mostly due to very warm temperatures in the western United States, Europe, and Asia. With this winter winning the record for the most snowfall in Boston's history earlier this week, and now snagging the title for warmest winter of this past century, I guess it's a sign that this year is going to be one for the books. So, that's the weather. I'm Michael Kyanis. Back to you, Maggie and Logan.
Well, thank you for that surprisingly warm news, Michael. We're going to take a quick break.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to Good Morning Emerson.
Recently, the San Francisco 49ers have been depleted by injuries, not by injuries, but by retirements. Most recently, a 24-year-old linebacker called it quits, fearing head trauma later on in life. Sean, this is becoming more and more prevalent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really becoming very relevant after the passing of Junior Seau and Jovan Belcher. We've seen autopsies that have revealed really drastic head trauma to these football players.
Yeah.
It's a very serious thing that's starting to come up. But the San Francisco 49ers are now searching for a new linebacker after Chris Borland announced his retirement on Monday. This came as a shock to Niners fans since Borland is only 24 and entering his second season. Borland was an elite linebacker in his rookie season with 107 combined tackles and 2 interceptions. He said the reason for his retirement was because of concerns of long-term injuries and head trauma from playing football. His retirement came only a little over a week after fellow Niners linebacker Patrick Willis announced his retirement at the age of 30. And Tuesday night, BYU and Ole Miss clashed for a chance to make it to the NCAA tournament. BYU came out firing, but the Rebels were not backing down from a fight. We take you to the second half now. Huge alley-oop to MJ Rhett gets the Rebels fired up, and then he follows up again with a huge slam. This was late in the second half. Stephon Moody pulls up for 3, nails it, bringing the game even closer, and then takes a 3 to solidify it. Ole Miss was able to win that one, and they will advance along with Hampton, Robert Morris, and Dayton. The Toronto Maple Leafs will be without center Nazem Kadri after he was suspended 4 games for a hit on Edmonton Oilers wing Matt Fraser. Kadri hit Fraser in the head on Monday trying to play the puck behind the net. Kadri was only given a 2-minute minor for the hit during the game, but will now miss key games against the Sharks, Senators, Wild, and Panthers. Kadri was suspended 3 games last season for an illegal hit, and was only in his second game back from a 3-game team-issued suspension this month. Major League Baseball's all-time hit leader Pete Rose hopes to be reinstated. Rose received a lifetime ban in 1989 after allegations of gambling on games while being a player-coach for the Reds arose. Rose sent a formal letter to the new MLB commissioner, Rob Manfred, asking that his lifetime ban be lifted. Manfred said that he wants to hear what Rose has to say and will then make a decision. Rose was unable to get his ban lifted under previous commissioners Fay Vincent and Bud Selig. And now for an update on NFL free agency. This offseason, we've already seen the Eagles go wild, the AFC East finally get competitive, and the Colts become stacked. However, there's a lot more that has happened just this past week. Yesterday, the Dallas Cowboys signed defensive end Greg Hardy. Hardy was a 2013 Pro Bowl selection with 15 sacks. However, while in Carolina, he was arrested on accounts of domestic abuse. And finally, after the Pats lost Revis, Browner, and Wilfork, they added new defensive threats. The New England Patriots signed cornerbacks Bradley Fletcher and Robert McClain to one-year deals. And in the AFC South, Vince Wilfork found a new home. The 5-time Pro Bowler signed with the Houston Texans on a 2-year, $9 million contract. Wilfork was an elite defensive lineman for the Pats, and I for sure will miss him. That's it for sports. Now back to Logan and Maggie.
Thanks for the update, Sean. Now we have Emerson alum Andrew Hutcheson in studio to speak with us about Xandrak, a production house here in Boston that combines storytelling with advertising. Thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So tell us a little bit about how it started with founding Xandrak.
The idea, it was a bunch of us were filmmakers, writers, crew folk, and we were faced with either starving and living off of how much money our parents would want to give us and Kickstarter would give us to make films, or going out to LA and working up the ladder, and that just never really appealed to us. So we figured, if we could convince people, that we were a legitimate production house by making a couple pieces of work and putting up a cool website and just living out of my living room, then maybe it could work. And we just made a bunch of stuff every day, every week, making spec commercials, working with startups and nonprofits, and then one thing hit, and it kind of happened. But it was definitely fake it until you make it.
So how did you manage to sort of create and carve your own career path, especially when, like you said, there are so many sort of, tracks to film, tracks for TV, that sort of thing?
When I was at Emerson, it was the recession. So it was in bold neon letters, you will not get a job no matter what you do. And I thought, okay, well, if I'm not gonna get a job, I'm really kind of forced to make one. And filmmaking for me, from the very beginning was about just having fun and getting your friends together. It was definitely the coolest thing that I could do with my time. So it kind of made sense that, we would just figure out a way to do it ourselves. I would say it just came from we stumbled into it. We just kept doing work over and over and finding ways for people to pay for things. There's a really cool opportunity if you want to make short films or you want to make things that aren't necessarily commercials, to get a brand who's the values of your film are in line with them to come on board and sponsor it. And that's kind of how I got introduced to the world of financing films. And that philosophy we took towards making commercials that weren't exactly check out this car, it's so cool, buy it because of how fast it is, but more experiential content.
Yeah, talk about, you said you graduated in 2012 and started this just a year ago. What has it been like to already have such success coming out of college just so early?
I don't really think we have success in the way
you're here. You got to be some. You got to have some sort of
but
success.
The way we look at it is that we're about to expand. We're looking at hiring new folks, setting up a New York office, and that's okay. That to me feels ground floor. And I'm sure when we're there, that'll feel like ground floor. It's easy to get inundated with thinking, oh, okay, our first spot we did as a company won Best Broadcast of 2013 and was a nationally broadcast commercial. And that was holy cow, we made it. Clearly we can just sit back and whatever we do will be great. And then we did 2 spots that failed amazingly, horrendously. And that was a really big humbling moment. So I would say, the thing that we've learned is that every time you learn how to do something, that's not really useful. So if you figure out how to make a good commercial or how something works, okay, you can kind of like put that aside and like let it get dusty, because what you figured out was like 900 ways not to do it. But there are so many new things. You know, we can tend to fall into the sense of like we know how to do something well. Like anytime we play to our strengths in life, like that's what we do. But Xandrax provided an opportunity and a constant reminder that exploring the things that you did wrong, or exploring, you know, like what didn't work and finding ways to make that work somewhere else has been like a way to stay fresh and stay humble.
Definitely.
So, do you have any advice for Emerson students? I mean, you've done your own thing. How would you recommend other Emerson students do that?
Yeah, I would say, you know, like thinking about your branding is really important, and not in like an esoteric way, but just what do you want? What's the kind of stuff that you want to buy? What do you want to see in the world? And going out and make that. Like a lot of times we try to write for an audience, or we try to create for what we think is going to have the most appeal. But you see time and time again that the more personal something is, the more universal it is. And get out there and make things. Like I made probably 20 or 30 awful commercials before we had one success. That would be my best advice.
So how can Emerson students, Emerson grads get involved with Xantrack? Are you looking to expand?
Yes, we are. We're looking to hire directors and editors, producers, and people can check out our website, which is xandrack.com, and from there contact us.
All right. Well,
Very
thank you
cool,
so much
very
for joining
cool.
us.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have to take another quick commercial break, but stick around because we have Marinating with Meredith coming up.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us.
Now, tech correspondent Dan Kendi will be recapping PAX East, one of North America's largest gaming events. Let's take a look.
To the second tech segment. I'm Dan Kendi. Last week, Penny Arcade held their annual PAX East Expo here in Boston. The convention celebrates gaming, whether it be digital or physical. All types of games were on display there, as well as new technology, board games, video games, and card games. Let's head on to the show floor to see what we can find. Like all the other eager patrons, I had to wait in line in the queue hall. To keep busy, some attendees took out their Nintendo 3DSs and played games like Super Smash Bros. Or Pokemon, while one attendee, self-named the PAX Beach Ball Guy on Twitter, brought several, well, beach balls, which were very popular among the guests. I can't emphasize how excited people were by these beach balls. You really have no idea. Nintendo, though, had a great booth at the show, where they showed off the newly released new Nintendo 3DS, along with games for it like Puzzles & Dragons Super Mario Bros. Edition, codenamed Steam, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. Nintendo's big game at the show was Splatoon, a third-person shooter developed by Nintendo for the Wii U. I was impressed by the 4v4 battle game, where characters cover the environment with ink while simultaneously turning into squids, and I believe this could be a great opportunity for the Wii U, the system that is lacking in the shooter genre. Many retailers such as Rooster Teeth, We Love Fine, and ThinkGeek were on the show floor selling gaming memorabilia, merchandise, and show exclusives. Oculus VR had a very large booth with closed-off doors you can try out the Oculus Rift. The company was bought by Facebook mid-last year and has become very popular in both the video game and technology industries. Sony is working on its own virtual reality headset, which is codenamed Project Morpheus. Unfortunately, Sony wasn't at the show this year. Their leading competitor, however, was. Microsoft had a large Xbox booth that was mostly centered around the upcoming Halo 5 Guardians. The game was playable at the booth and also featured in a tournament at the convention. The DC Comics multiplayer online battle arena, or MOBA game, Infinite Crisis, was at the show for its second year and had a really enjoyable booth. Not only was the game playable, but the booth also included a bunch of carnival-style games that could be played to win prizes, which spanned from in-game characters to t-shirts to even statues based on the game's characters. Also at the show were video and streaming websites like Twitch and YouTube. These booths were constantly streaming live video from the show and giving away free items to attendees. Independent or indie games also had a large presence at the show. The indie showcase area of the show floor featured many highly anticipated games from smaller publishers and game designers. With all these electronics taking up most of the show, it was nice to take a break in the board and card game section of the floor as well, which included well-known games such as Settlers of Catan and Magic the Gathering, and smaller upcoming games like Divorce the Game. While I know there was a lot on the show floor that we couldn't show you in this short segment, I can assure you that some great video, board, and card games are coming to you in the future. Now I need to find some money so I can afford all of these great games. Back to you guys in the studio.
Food Network star Christy Codd, her husband, and her unborn baby have been killed, and a contractor who worked in their home is the suspect. Amelia, can you tell us anything more about this?
I can, Maggie. It's really a freak story. Very, very scary stuff, and they're not sure what the motive of the killer was. So let's take a look at that story. Robert Owens was charged Tuesday morning in the murder of Food Network star competitor Christy Codd, husband Joseph, and their unborn child in an ongoing investigation surrounding their disappearance. Family members reported the couple missing on Sunday and also told police that Christy was 5 months pregnant. Neighbors stated that Owens worked as a handyman and often did repairs for the Codds at their house. According to the judge, Owens could face death or life in prison without parole as maximum penalties for each murder charge. Christy was a competitor on Food Network star in its 8th season. Food Network issued a statement to the family saying, quote, "Our thoughts go out to Christy's friends and family during this difficult time." And the announcement for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame presenters came on Wednesday, and Ringo Starr will be the final Beatle to receive his induction. Fellow bandmate Paul McCartney agreed to usher the musician in the Hall of Fame at the 30th annual induction ceremony next month in Cleveland. The Beatles are in the Hall of Fame as a band already. So are McCartney, John Lennon, and George Harrison as solo artists. So the induction seems a long time coming for drummer Starr. It's also reported that Eagle Joe Walsh will perform some of his friends' music at the ceremony. Actor Will Ferrell was ready for St. Paddy's Day when he stopped by The Late Show with David Letterman on Tuesday, completely clad in full leprechaun attire. But the comedian's wild antics did not stop there. Ferrell continued to sing his own wacky rendition of Irish classic Danny Boy. Let's take a look at his guest appearance.
St. Patrick's Day is a very serious holiday to me. You know, we know of it as getting drunk and drinking green beer, but we forget that in the 5th century, the real St. Patrick, he chased all the snakes out of Ireland. That's right. So.
Oh, Danny boy, the snakes are calling.
Get enough of him. He always nails it. In movie news, fans of the Disney mega hit Frozen better hold on because plans for Frozen 2 were officially announced by Disney executives at the company's annual shareholders meeting on Thursday. Kristen Bell, who voiced Anna in the first film, confirmed the sequel in the most adorable tweet last week of her hugging a bag of ice with the caption, "Dreams really do come true." Disney announced that the film will reunite the Oscar-winning filmmaking team, including directors Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee, as well as producer Peter Del Vecchio. The original film made nearly $1.3 billion at the global box office and also won an Oscar, so with its enormous success, a sequel was practically a shoo-in. A release date and production details have not been announced yet, but if it's anything like the first one, I'm sure it will be worth the wait. Speaking of sequels, let's take a look at the movies I think should have made one, but never came to be. First up is the family Christmas classic Elf with the one and only Will Ferrell, of course. I'm sure we all would have liked to see what nutty things Buddy the Elf does next in Elf 2, but maybe it's best that we're left with the legacy of just one. Next is one we all know and love, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think we can all admit that Ferris Bueller is the coolest cat ever, and how awesome would it have been to see him as an adult taking a day off from work and the hilarity that would ensue, but I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Finally, another childhood favorite of mine and sort of a throwback here is the Goonies. The original film sort of left the door open for another adventure, but then again, if a Goonies 2 sequel flopped, we wouldn't want tainted memories of the first one, now would we? All right, well, that just about wraps it up in the wild world of pop news. Maggie and Logan, back to you.
Thank you. We are now marinating with Meredith, very special edition, Buffalo Chicken edition. So
yes, I wanted to talk about a few of my favorite things. I am a huge Buffalo Chicken fan and a big fan of crock pots. So I just took one chicken breast, put it in the crock pot with a little bit of Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning and 1 cup of Frank's Red Hot. I let that just sit in the crock pot all day while I was off doing work, and I came back and I made all of this. This took me about 15 minutes, 5 minutes for each meal.
Wow.
Really?
First, we have buffalo chicken lettuce wraps. This is refreshing, yet it's warm, so it's perfect for this time of year where spring is right around the corner, but it's still a little bit chilly out. Then I just turned it into a buffalo chicken sandwich. I put a little bit of ranch on it and lettuce, and you're good
ranch
to go.
on everything.
Yes. Ranch and buffalo, the best pair. And then my all-time favorite, buffalo chicken pizza. Would one of you like to try?
I'm so excited. And this has fresh mozzarella on it, doesn't
Fresh
it?
mozzarella, cheddar, just store-bought pizza dough. Make it easy on yourself.
And waiting.
Very good, very good.
So all of this takes no time at all, and it is incredibly worth it. Buffalo chicken, my life. What can I say?
Talk about, I know there's so many different ways to make it such a diverse sort of like food. There's obviously the wrap sandwich and stuff. Is there any other things that, especially when they host parties, it's such a big thing. I know there's dip. Is there any other sort of things buffalo chicken is just like perfect with? Any weird things, you know?
Well, I mean, I think that these buffalo chicken lettuce wraps would make a wonderful appetizer. I also think buffalo chicken pizza is great for a crowd. Altogether, I think if you're feeding a crowd, you want to shred your chicken because you get more from it. So this was one chicken breast, all of this, and that's the benefits of shredding chicken.
Do you
It's just
shred
two
it
forks.
before you put it in the slow cooker or afterwards?
No, you just put the entire chicken breast in the slow cooker. You just dump it in there. You don't do anything else. And then once it's done, you take it out and you shred the chicken. And I put a little bit of buffalo on after as well. Yeah.
No, I think this is a great option too because it's gluten-free, so I think it's pretty applicable. Everyone can use it.
Absolutely. It's very diverse.
Well, thank you so
Yes,
much for
thank
joining
you.
us. This
Welcome.
is
It's my
awesome, and the
pleasure.
pizza's great. This is my breakfast right now, so I appreciate it.
8:30 in the morning. Yeah, that's all we have for today's show. Join us on Tuesday when we've got style correspondent Gretchen Kuschel here in studio.
Thanks for watching.